This is Dr. Michelle Richards. I am the Joy Doctor. Welcome to the Ask the Joy Doctor show. Today, we're going to be talking about intrusive memory and exposure to trauma. Welcome. The first question is, what is exposure to trauma? I'll be reading an excerpt of an article that I wrote about this. Have you been exposed to trauma? When diagnosing post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, exposure to traumatic events is only one of the factors that therapists evaluate. According to the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Health Disorders, 5th edition text revision, that's also known as the DSM-5-TR, a diagnosis of PTSD requires a combination of exposure, intrusive symptoms, avoidance, negative alterations in thought and mood, and relationship impairment that is not better explained by substance abuse, medical condition, or mental health disorders. Over the next few weeks, we will explore these symptoms. This article focuses on exposure to traumatic material. These are many ways. There are many ways to be exposed to traumatic material. Exposure to traumatic material may occur in your home, where you are to feel your safest. Let's see. There are many ways to be exposed to traumatic material. Exposure, oh, my tongue is not working this morning. There are many ways to be exposed to traumatic material. Exposure to trauma may occur in your home, where you are to feel your safest, or outside your residence. Common places for trauma to occur include daycares, schools, extended family residencies, friends' homes, a variety of vehicles, clubs, etc. You may be exposed to trauma due to an accident or intentionally. You may be exposed to trauma by someone you know and trust or by a stranger. However, you are more likely to be traumatized by someone you know than a stranger. You may be exposed to trauma by an adult or a peer, including one who is slightly older than you are, like an older cousin. According to the DSM-5-TR, the exposure must be either death, threat of death, serious injury, or sexual violence. Typically, my clients come in with complex PTSD, that's CPTSD, due to prolonged and repeated trauma. While many of my clients may not technically fit neatly into those categories, death and all that, they are often terrified during the traumatic event despite not actually being threatened due to the implicit threat or danger. On the other hand, empty threats may lead to implicit trauma responses and psychiatric disorders. According to Lewis et al., 2024, 80% of adults who have been exposed to one or more traumatic events, the DSM-5 TR indicates 6.8% of Americans exposed to trauma were diagnosed with PTSD over a lifetime. Some traumatized individuals develop psychiatric symptoms, while others never develop psychiatric disorders. Lewis et al., 2024, reported that of those exposed to trauma, 9% reported depression, 8% developed substance abuse, 18% developed anxiety disorders, and 2% developed borderline personalities. Everyone who is exposed to trauma does not develop or is diagnosed with PTSD. Factors that mediate trauma survivors' reaction to the traumatic event include their age, social support, temperament, the number of doses of trauma, and if it was at the hand of a stranger or someone they know. So the lower the number of traumas, the more social support, the more calm the temperament, and the more impersonal the attack, the less likely one is to develop psychiatric disorders. Consequently, the higher the number of traumas, the younger the age, the lack of social support, the more anxious the temperament, and the more well-known the perpetrator, made it more likely that the survivor